Welcome. My name is Kerry Chausmer, and on behalf of GHSA, thank you for joining us for our first pre-annual meeting webinar. It's a GHSA showcase on how communities are promoting vehicle recall checks. With more than 53 million vehicles with open recalls on the road today, it's critical that we have innovative programs. American Honda, one of our 2022 Highway Safety Champions, is sponsoring this webinar to help spread the word about this important issue. Let's begin with a welcome from Jennifer Thomas, American Honda's Vice President of Corporate Affairs.
Thank you, Kerry. Good afternoon and welcome, everyone. My name is Jennifer Thomas, and I'm the Vice President of Corporate Affairs at American Honda. Honda has had a long history of leadership in the development and application of technology designed to enhance traffic safety. Recently, our company set an ambitious goal of having zero traffic collision fatalities involving our products by the year 2050. To realize this goal, we're focused not only on rolling out these new safety features, but also ensuring the timely replacement of recalled parts. I'd like to thank the Governor's Highway Safety Association for prioritizing this topic and putting together this great event. I'd also like to thank our panelists and all of you for taking the time to discuss this important safety issue. As you all know, there are millions of vehicles on the road today with open safety recalls, and those vehicles pose a threat to the well-being of all road users. Automakers have a legal obligation to repair safety defects at no cost to the consumer, but at Honda, we believe that it is a moral obligation as well. And that is something that we take very seriously. It is our goal to repair or otherwise account for 100% of our vehicles impacted by a safety defect as quickly as possible. Over the past several years, as our industry has navigated a number of large, complicated recall efforts, it's become clear that no one automaker can meet this goal by themselves. We need the help of governments and safety advocates to educate consumers about recalls, to educate them of the importance of this issue, and encourage them to take advantage of the free remedies made available to them. Today, we'll discuss just a few innovative ideas to improve recall completion rates that we hope can be replicated elsewhere. We look forward to the input of other key stakeholders and a robust conversation about how to achieve safer roads for everyone. Again, thank you for your time and your participation. Now, we are pleased to share this message by NHTSA Deputy Administrator, Dr. Steve Cliff. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Steve Cliff, NHTSA's Deputy Administrator. Thank you for your dedication to keeping our roads safe and saving lives. We depend on safety partners like you to help fulfill our safety mission. One way we can all make a difference is to check for recalls on our vehicles, and if there are open recalls, to get them repaired as soon as possible. And in the near future, thanks to the bipartisan infrastructure law, there will be opportunities for state DMVs to encourage recall repairs with a new grant. In 2021, NHTSA oversaw 1,093 recalls, the most in the agency's history. More than 34 million vehicles and pieces of equipment were recalled. That's 34 million reasons why you should check. The Takata airbag recall is ongoing, and we know that millions of dangerous airbags remain on the roads. There have also been several high-profile recalls for fire risk, even when the vehicle is turned off. Every safety recall matters, and recall repairs are free. No one needs to put off a recall repair because they're worried about the cost. Recalls are a safety issue. Unsafe vehicles on our roads are a danger to everyone. Raising awareness will help get these recalls fixed, and we hope you can join us in spreading the word. We have resources available at trafficsafetymarketing.gov, including handouts, social media posts, and graphics, and Spanish language materials. Share the word. Check your vehicle identification number at nhtsa.gov/recalls or download our Safer Car app and receive notifications when you have a new recall. And while you're educating others, please don't forget to check your vehicles, including any fleet vehicles, for open recalls too. Thanks for all that you do and for helping us spread this life-saving message. Remember, safe cars save lives. check for recalls.
Thank you for that. Brad Ortloff has been working for American Honda for more than 2 decades. First in the parts division, where he was responsible for distribution, procurement, and new model activities. For the past 10 years, he's been providing technical assistance to Honda dealers, which has included working on the Takata airbag recall. So Brad, let's start the showcase with you. How has American Honda been encouraging vehicle owners to check for recalls and have them fixed?
Thank you, Kerry, and good morning, everybody, or good afternoon. As mentioned, I'm Brad Ortloff. I am the manager of campaigns and recalls for American Honda for our automotive vehicles. And we have been working very, very diligently for many years to try to repair all of the vehicles that are affected by safety recalls. And that is paramount to what we do here at Honda. As Jennifer mentioned, we believe that we have a moral obligation to repair every Honda and Acura vehicle that has an open safety recall. And we work very hard, me and my team work very hard on that every day. Unfortunately, we have 2 main obstacles that make this difficult for any OEM, not just Honda. But one of those, the first is that we don't have perfect data to help us find and locate every registered or every vehicle owner in the country. We do very well with newer vehicles. Those are generally vehicles that have an ongoing relationship with our dealers and also who we have very up-to-date contact information for. But as an industry, we all struggle and have a harder time with the older vehicles, which unfortunately a significant number of these safety recalls are made up of this older recall or older vehicle population. These vehicles have often changed hands multiple times, and even if they haven't, the owners may move on a frequent basis, and it's hard for the data to catch up with their new place of residence. Notably, the communities of color and disadvantaged communities have been extremely reliant upon the used car market for their transportation needs. And our analysis shows that a significant amount of the unrepaired Takata recall population resides within these communities, disproportionately affecting them with this recall. The second issue that we face is that consumer participation in recalls is 100% voluntary. There is no mandate that someone must get a recall repaired on their vehicle. And unfortunately, recalls affect not only the driver of the vehicle, but passengers as well as individuals surrounding the vehicle as well. So as you can see on my first slide, and this is relating to the Takata recall, Honda has gone significantly beyond our legal obligation to educate and communicate with customers about the recall and try to convince them to get their vehicle fixed. As you can see, we've repaired over 90% of the vehicles, and that was out of an 18.6 million VIN population. And we have performed well over 300 million individual outreach attempts to owners. We've conducted a multi-million-dollar bilingual advertising campaign. We've partnered with several state DMVs and sent out communications on DMV letterhead, communicating the message, the urgency of getting this recall fixed and asking them to take action. And we've also utilized a national canvassing program where for vehicles with significant safety risk, we have gone door to door and literally had face-to-face conversations, as you can see in the photo on this slide, with owners and tried to overcome any barriers that they have to getting their vehicles fixed. What we've learned, which is a lot from all of this activity, is that despite our best efforts, there's still a small but significant portion of consumers who, for various reasons, refuse to let us fix their vehicles. And as I mentioned, the problem here is not only are those individuals driving the vehicle at risk, but it's anyone that's on the road within or around that vehicle. So to address this issue, Honda has been committed to and continues to work with state legislatures and other stakeholders to adopt programs in the United States that have long worked in Europe and Jamaica and other countries. This will be in the form of legislation for tie-in for vehicle registration. And first, that would require that DMVs and inspection facilities check for and notify consumers about open recalls. This is not intended to replace our outreach efforts, but it's intended to supplement it, to become a secondary trusted source to communicate that information in a supplementary fashion to the individuals driving or owning our vehicles. Second, this proposal also would require that DMVs that notify customers of safety recalls, they must have those repaired in order to re-register the vehicle. Many states already withhold registration for things such as unpaid parking tickets, unpaid child support, or even emissions recalls. So adding vehicle safety to this list just makes sense. This would work in a way that consumers would be notified of open safety recalls by the DMV when they register their vehicle, and then they would have 1 year to get that vehicle repaired. And as Jennifer mentioned, those repairs are available for free at our dealerships. We do have some off-ramps built into this. The clock would not start if parts are not available at that time, and if there's other circumstances that are beyond the consumer's control. We believe that this is a fair approach that would minimize the inconvenience to consumers while still ensuring that all these vehicles are repaired in a timely manner and getting these dangerous components out of the vehicle and off the road. As you can see on the slide here, we have done some polling in California, and 82% of the drivers in California believe that safety recalls should be enforced and required by government agencies. Honda, as well as some other stakeholders, are currently working with legislatures in New Jersey and Massachusetts to enact this legislation, and we hope that this will become a model for other states to follow. We are very committed to this proposal. It's been something we've worked on for many years, and we are looking forward to implementing it in every state if possible. So if there's any more questions, I definitely can answer that in the discussion. And also, if you want to visit our Honda in America website, you'll see some information on there about our commitment to safety recalls as well. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Great, Brad. Thank you so much. And now we're actually going to switch gears and showcase a community-based program led by Karen Jean, or KJ Feury, the Injury Prevention Coordinator for the Surgical Critical Care, Trauma, and Injury Prevention Service at Morristown Memorial Hospital in New Jersey. So in addition to playing a leadership role in developing Morristown Medical's Regional Trauma Center, she also established the Northern New Jersey Safe Kids, Safe Communities Coalition, near and dear to my heart. She's a longtime nursing professional and brings a wealth of knowledge, passion, and innovation to our panel discussion today. So KJ, I'm looking forward to hearing how you've combined your passion for child passenger safety and vehicle safety.
Thank you, Kerry. That's a very warm welcome. And thank you for the opportunity to share our programming with you. I really am blessed with a very robust child passenger safety program that we have developed over the years. And we have right now 7 car seat inspection stations within our catchment area. And we inspect around 2,400 car seats a year. In the spring of 2019, our retired police chief, Chris Wagner, told me about the Check to Protect program. And this is a program where you would put in your VIN number, and automatically through this app, you would find out if your car had any recalls. And he thought this would be a great fit for us. He certainly supported child passenger safety, and he said, listen, you're working so hard to get these seats in the car. We need to know that the cars are safe for the seats to be in. So with that, we did a little research on the program. We created some tools. This was one of them that we originally used. It was our Check to Protect card. Originally it used the VIN number, and we'll fast forward a minute and then we'll go back to it. Now we use the license plate number, to identify the car and see if there are any recalls on it. You could drop that, Kerry. Thank you. So at that point in time, we said, you know what, if we're going to do this program, we want to do it and get some outcomes. So we submitted an application to the IRB at Atlantic Health, and we began our research project in October of 2019. Our goal was to continue this for a year. We got through our October, November, December of 19, January, February, and mid-March, and then COVID shut our world down along with our research project. Most of us, our stations were shut down. Most of our clinical staff was at this point deployed to clinical positions. So a few months later, we actually had the time to look at the data that we did collect. And within that, almost 2-quarter periods, we had given the cards out and checked 646 vehicles. 57 of them did have recalls, and we brought this to the attention of those car owners. What we realized when we went back and checked for their recalls, on average, 23% of them had addressed their recalls, and we thought that was really a fabulous number. At this point in time, during the pandemic, our car seat stations were closed. We were really only doing virtual checks. But once we opened up to distance checks in the late fall of 2020, we reinitiated the program. And at this point in time, in January, we had new cards made. The program went from using the VIN number to using the license plate number, and it got a whole lot easier. Right now, our car seat stations are wide open. We are, averaging between 350 and 400 seats a month a quarter coming through. And, the program is in full swing, and we really feel that we're making a good connection with the community, highlighting the Check to Protect program, but most importantly, addressing recalls on many of the vehicles that may have gone unnoticed. So again, I thank you for your time. Please put any questions in the chat and we'll answer them at the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, KJ. Well, unfortunately, our next speaker, Jennifer Diaz-Alzuri, who is with Bowdoin, an award-winning Hispanic communications agency, was not able to be with us today, but I am very pleased to welcome Ashley Middleton with GMMB. Ashley's been advancing their mission of integrated communications campaigns since 2005. So she shares messages across platforms that inform, inspire, and change minds and drive action, which is exactly what this campaign was about. And she's worked closely with the National Safety Council and Fiat Chrysler to develop and launch Check to Protect in 2017. So she supported this recall awareness campaign ever since it started and has been using a wide range of tactics and worked with Jennifer on the campaign. So we're delighted that she's here today to talk a little bit about what went into it. So welcome, Ashley, and thank you again for stepping in.
Thank you, Kerry, and thank you, KJ, for giving a brief teaser of Check to Protect and how communities can use it. I am replacing Jennifer, and so I'm going to be focused on the Hispanic outreach that we did through Check to Protect, and then specifically a program that we did in the Los Angeles area. So Check to Protect, you'll hear a little bit more about that later from Lonny Haschel at the National Safety Council, but it's an initiative that reaches out to vehicle owners, urges them to check for recalls at checktoprotect.org, and then to get their free repair appointments scheduled as soon as possible. And one of our primary audiences with this, because we're trying to reach the people that the automakers have a challenge reaching, is that Hispanic community, particularly lower income immigrant communities who may not speak English or who own those older or used vehicles and who tend to take those vehicles to trusted mechanics instead of dealers. And this is a group that they're not necessarily reaching receiving the outreach materials, and they don't have that connection with the dealers to to get the information in other ways. And we have worked with Bowdoin for a number of years, and they're an agency that specializes in outreach to the Hispanic community. And they recommended in fall of 2021 that we form a partnership with Visión y Compromiso and share the recall message through Visión y Compromiso's network of community health workers. So these promotores de salud, they encourage healthcare enrollment, mental health education, diabetes prevention, teen pregnancy prevention, a number of health projects. And they also share information about other initiatives like childcare, affordable subsidized internet programs, energy efficiency programs, and more. So they really know the community that we're trying to reach and how best to share information in a way that this community will be receptive to. So in the fall of 2021, we kicked off a 3-month pilot program with Visión y Compromiso in the East Los Angeles area in the San Fernando Valley, where 80 to 90% of the inhabitants are Spanish speaking. And Bowdoin really helped us transform our outreach materials for this specific audience, organized a message training with our 4 promotores, and set up a weekly call to hear feedback from the field and to discuss possible solutions and messaging and tactic shifts. So our goal was not just awareness. We didn't want to just have outreach numbers. We wanted to make sure that we were getting those appointments scheduled and those recalls checked. So in addition to sharing information, the promotores also helped people check for recalls, and then they walked them through the process, the steps of scheduling an appointment with their local dealer. And then they would flag for us any hiccups or barriers that, that they were hearing so that we could give them some good answers that they could use in the next week of outreach. And one of the most successful parts of this partnership was the degree of collaboration between Bowdoin and Visión y Compromiso. And Bowdoin would share a weekly update with us with frequently asked questions so we could give them guidance and messaging. Visión y Compromiso, after a couple weeks in, they started actually sharing the message, not just with the 4 promotores in the community, but with their entire network of promotores in California through webinars and Facebook Live videos to arm a new group of people with information. They also collaborated with their peers to brainstorm tips and best practices along the way. And they ended up adding one of the things I thought was particularly cool was they added recall messaging to follow-up calls to households. So when they were checking in on other things, it would also check and find out if they had actually scheduled that recall appointment that they needed to. And when the pilot ended, Visión y Compromiso asked to keep all of our unused communications materials and continue distributing them in their community outreach, which of course goes a long way when you have a partnership to know that they want to keep it going. And in terms of results, and this is, Kerry, if you could pull up the slide. So as I mentioned, our main focus was getting recalls checked. So we were thrilled to reach over 10,000 people in this outreach, but our main goal was to reach the 2,700 people and get them to check their vehicles for recalls. And of those, there were 661 vehicles with open recalls, which is slightly higher than what the state average is. It was close to 1 in 4. And the promotores were able to schedule at least 84 recall appointments when we last checked in with them. That's it for the slide. And then another valuable component of what we were able to do with the promotores was to learn from the conversations that were happening on the ground. And this continues to inform our messaging to this community as we move forward. And the feedback we heard from them, it's different than what we hear in other conversations and other outreach. And so that's something that we're able to kind of take and adjust in our Hispanic outreach moving forward. And I'd be delighted to answer any questions I can about this partnership and other Hispanic outreach.
Wonderful, thanks, Ashley. So rounding out our showcases, our next panelist is Lieutenant Andre Wright, who's been a member of the El Paso County Sheriff's Office for the past 13 years. He currently oversees the office's special response operations, which includes emergency response, crisis negotiation, and search and rescues. So he's also a member of the Honor Guard, and last year was named the El Paso County Sheriff's Office VFW Officer of the Year. So yay for that. We are so glad that he's here to discuss the role law enforcement can play in addressing vehicle recalls. So thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Kerry. First and foremost, I want to thank all my partners that came on before me. I really appreciate the information and the feedback that you gave to us. So, Kerry, going forward, I know that kind of was deployed to see how law enforcement can be involved with vehicle recall awareness, Kerry. And if you don't mind, can you pull up the slide that I prepared? So as far as law enforcement opportunities to promote vehicle recall checks, there's a couple ways in which we can engage the community and help to mitigate or circumvent any type of accidents that may occur due to vehicle recall checks. So on the list, I have here community appearances and presentations. That's something that we can employ by having our COPS, which is our community-oriented police officers, go to these community appearances and presentations. And we could present things such as NHTSA, as far as checking those vehicles with their VIN and or license plate. Another event that would be very advantageous for us to deploy this would be at our car safety seat installation. KJ, I know you're familiar with these. I think there's a lot of people that actually respond to these, and being able to basically have two events in one would be very beneficial to us, where we could actually have those vehicle recall checks done. Another one is going to be our Law Enforcement National Night Out. That's a night when law enforcement basically comes together to engage the community, to develop those relationships with the community. And this would also be a very beneficial event where we could also deploy this vehicle check. Fourth of all would be our school-based law enforcement events. We have career days in which we can talk to students, teachers, parents, also our campus parent-teacher meetings. One of the other situations that we have where we can do is our stationary vehicle checks, where again, if we have access to an internet system, our MCTs on our computers, we could very easily help those individuals check their vehicle through the NHTSA website. Another way that we'll be able to do this is through our agency social media and public service announcements. And last would be our interdepartmental fleet services, our motor pool. And this will be more internally to ensure that we're able to check the notices for our vehicles there at the sheriff's office, Kerry. And I believe that there's a lot more opportunities that we have to engage the community. But personally, I believe that systematically going through this list would be very advantageous to helping the community out with those vehicle recall checks. And that's how law enforcement can get involved, Kerry.
Hey, thank you. Well, I'd like to go ahead and ask all of our panelists to go ahead and turn their camera on. Joining our panel is Lonny Haschel. You'll notice he's new. He did not have a showcase. After a long career in law enforcement, he joined the National Safety Council and is overseeing the Check to Protect campaign, which has been referenced several times today. He brings a wealth of experience in media and communications and continues to serve his community as a child passenger safety technician instructor. It is a joy to welcome a fellow former National Child Passenger Safety Board member to the discussion. We will have a discussion, but before we go, Lonny, we've really heard how vehicle recalls can be incorporated into a variety of programs. You know, as we work on Check to Protect, what are some other insights you can share with our virtual audience out there?
Education is number one. Ashley had mentioned it. That was something that we learned with the coalition of OEMs on Check to Protect coalition, was that there's some trepidation out there, whether it be they don't see the recall as a big problem. My car's still running. Why do I need to get that fixed? You know, nothing's fallen off. I don't need to worry about that. Another one we heard was, I don't want to get the car repaired because it will decrease the value of the car. Which it was shocking to me that people thought that. So education is the big thing, really getting the word out. And I'm really grateful to all the panelists, all the work that they do, whether it be with Brad and his extensive efforts with knocking on doors and such, to law enforcement, to the medical profession, to everybody. It takes a group effort. And I think Jennifer actually mentioned that. No one OEM can do this. And that's where the whole team comes in.
Yeah, you know, it really does take a village. And you know, one of the things that that we talked about outreach in a bunch of communities, and we did have already, we have a couple of questions, and I'm going to go ahead and ask them now because they both had to do with, is there an app for that? So that's something, KJ, you had mentioned that they switched from VIN numbers to license plates. And I'm wondering, Lonny, if you want to talk about the app or the website for Check to Protect, so how people don't have to enter in the huge long VIN number anymore.
Absolutely. We work with our partners at NHTSA on this because it's, like you said, it takes a village. But one thing that we learned and listened to the consumer through the coalition of OEMs, the manufacturers that belong to the coalition, was the VIN is hard. If anybody's ever looked at your VIN, there's 17 digits. And if you're like me, you will transpose two numbers or you'll lose something. So the coalition worked with our partners over at Carfax, and now we have the ability just simply, and KJ had mentioned this, you just enter your state and your license plate number, boom, and it comes back like that, tells you what kind of recall you've got and gets you pointed to a dealer that's close to you. So it's ease of use, and going back to what your initial point was, education.
Yeah. Well, Brad, this one's for you. You talked a little bit about DMVs, and I'm wondering if you could expand a little bit on the role that they can play in informing motorists about checking for recalls. And I'm wondering if there might be a state that you can point to as a model for outreach on vehicle recall checks.
Yeah, so for us, I think the DMVs is really a trusted source for most people, or a secondary source where people are hearing it from the OEMs, but then when they hear it also from a DMV, an agency that they're very familiar with in their lives, it starts to tie it together, and they understand it, they recognize what's going on, and they pay a little bit more attention to it. As I mentioned, we've worked with several states over the years to send out letters on their letterhead, but the one that sticks out the most for me is New York. We've done 3 outreach events with them, and the first 2 times that we performed those outreaches, we doubled our average repairs for the months leading up to it. Once those letters were in the mailbox and the consumers had time to react to it. So to me, they were one of the first states that we interacted with in that capacity, and that just proved how much that secondary trusted source really resonated with consumers out there. So it's something that we really look forward to, and we really embrace that type of interaction.
Okay. We really focused a lot on partners, so I'm going to ask each of you, if there's any partner you've worked with who's been particularly helpful in engaging key audiences. And Ashley, I'll start with you. Is there a particular partner who really kind of stuck out as engaging?
We've had so many good partnerships with Check to Protect, and I'm going to focus on the Hispanic lens since I'm representing Jennifer. And with the Hispanic community, I was surprised and impressed at online influencers. We worked with them, especially during the pandemic, when we weren't able to do as many on-the-ground activities. And they have just such committed, dedicated followings. And we were working with media personalities and also with influencers who created these really fun, engaging videos on behalf of Check to Protect. So we got good content out of it. We got a lot of social engagement. And we've seen that same level of enthusiasm and engagement and kind of taking the issue and making it really meaningful for the community. We've seen that in earned media outreach with the Hispanic community as well. They really take the stories and run with them, which has been great and helped us, as you said, reach people through trusted messengers.
KJ, how about you? Any partners that stand out?
Actually, I guess the best partners right now that we've worked with are our hosts at our car seat stations, which have been first aid, fire stations. We've also are at a privately owned garage, which has worked out well. But we're certainly looking for additional partners down the road. And this is really where we would expand our programming. And right now we're trying to work with some car washes because people are, get out of their cars and watching their car go through the wash. They could see their license plate number. It's the perfect opportunity for them to check for any recalls. Drive-in movies, we have 1 or 2 in our area still. We think that might be a good opportunity again because there's some downtime. They're in their car. They can check on their phone using the website. And the other partnership we're working on for this summer is the host of car shows. Again, these are car enthusiasts, but again, it's people like kind of meandering around a parking lot looking at cars. They have some downtime. We can engage them, and hopefully they'll be good ambassadors for the program as well.
Brad, how about you? Any partners come to mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would have to say literally almost everybody that we've worked with. I've been doing this for many years, and so many amazing people. Everyone's been so helpful. Associates within Honda, our dealerships and their personnel, the DMVs, really anybody that we've come across, and even our customers, right? We have customers who have said, hey, I think, my neighbor, nephew, whoever also may have a car affected, and we try to help them out as well. So it's just everybody that we've touched is really just very helpful in this space. So.
Andre, do you see events like Neighborhood Night Out as an opportunity to talk about vehicle recalls? And I'm wondering if you have, other ideas on who effective partners might be.
Definitely, kind of, as I spoke of previously before, I believe that National Night Out, Neighborhood Night Out is a great time to develop those relationships with the community. It's an event where everybody comes together and there's different law enforcement agencies there, and everybody spends time and actually educates. One of the things that Lonny said is education is key, right? We're able to provide education to the community as far as different sections, different specifics of law enforcement. And there will be a lot amount of time where there would be those times to be able to check those vehicles. Thinking outside of the box, I know for opportunities in the future, I've kind of reached out to like the Texas Department of Transportation, and that would be a partner that I would like to join with as far as implementing something like this. The Department of Public Safety, like Brad had said, also the DMVs. DMVs are a great resource for us that we would be able to utilize for this. Additionally would be other local law enforcement agencies. And one of the biggest ones that I know we have and most cities have is the manufacturer and the dealerships, developing that direct line of communication where maybe they can put on an event and we can do something through a public service announcement with the dealership and actually have people come in and check their vehicle. So I think those are some of the partnerships that I would look forward to, or that would be able to provide us that beneficial factor as far as checking vehicles.
Yeah, when we talk about partners, let's not forget about the people that attended the event. So KJ, this is kind of a two-parter. The first is about the clients, and the second one is about staff. So, the results that you had were really astonishing, and I'm wondering how your clients reacted to the number of recalls or to the program itself. That was pretty amazing.
It was. I have to say, people were receptive to participate, even trying to put the VIN numbers in, which was sometimes a little bit of a challenge. And those who had recalls really never realized they did. Of course, many of them had, 100 reasons why. They just moved, they don't get the mail, they don't open their mail. So this was really eye-opening for them. So it was very, very well received. And our staff found it easy to work with. We do have iPads in all of our car seat stations. So, that was easy for us to utilize. We just had it right on our homepage, hit it and put the information in. It was nice and big and easy to see. And it also led to another conduit of talking about safety, which is really what any of these programs are looking to do. Put safety and transportation safety, raise the bar and awareness. So this helped us in that regard as well.
Staff is always getting pulled in a million directions at once. I'm sure that everybody on the panel and everybody on the call is wearing multiple hats. So did your staff find it too cumbersome to add on one more thing that they were doing in their activities?
Not really, because what we did was as the clients lined up at the station, when we gave them their paperwork in the car, we put the Check to Protect card there. So they started to already look at it. Some of them had the VIN number. If they were savvy enough to know where to look for their VIN number, they were able to put it in. But they did read about it, even if it was for just a few minutes. So it really was okay for us staff. It was not a problem at all.
One of the things I want to remind our panelists, if there's something that you want to add on, just raise your hand. Happy to have you add on to a question or include your thoughts and ideas on it as well. Actually, how did the idea come about to use peer educators for a program like this?
It was for the Visione Compromiso. I credit Bowden for that idea. We had been just coming out of, I mean, it was 2021, fall of 2021, coming out of COVID. We were looking for opportunities to get an on-the-ground outreach effort underway. And, you know, a lot of the automakers, as Brad described, have been doing door-to-door canvassing to the people that they know have their vehicles. And so we were trying to think of a way of reaching people who we don't know what kind of vehicle they have, and we don't know if they have a recall or not, and how can we reach them in a way that they would be persuaded? And because Visione Compromiso had this built-in program and network, they were a really solid option, and so that's how we went in that direction.
Well, and you mentioned, Brad, I'm going to kick it to you because you did mention the canvassing that you're doing. You know, what have you learned from your community on that, and how has that changed how you do that outreach? And actually, you might have something to add on to that as well, because I feel like there are messages you can only learn by going out into the community. And also, could you talk a little bit about trust? You know, I'm sure it's a little bit hard to go out and people may not trust what you have to say. So if you could weave that into your answer, that'd be great.
Yeah, so we definitely learned a lot from our canvassing activities. And I think probably one of the biggest takeaways was how we are presenting the information to the customer. And that can be in multiple fashions, right? It's the wording that we're using, the language preference that they may have, or even just the structure and the simplicity of the messaging that goes out. We had what I always call sort of a stuffy, very official looking letter that used to go out, and it was a lot of words on there. So we've taken that, we've simplified that, put very simple steps, the 1, 2, 3, this is what we would like you to do, and to understand what the significance is to you, using a lot of graphic images in some cases to help maybe cut through the words, but to just show visually how important this is, what the danger of it is. And then we also use now multiple languages in some of our communications. So it's standard for us to use English and Spanish, but we have incorporated other languages as well. We've used Farsi, we've used Polish, we've used Chinese, Korean, to try to reach anyone, you know, those may be their primary languages, and looking at the demographic makeup of our customers and just of the nation doing that. So, and then as far as, you know, the challenges or the trust, yeah, we've definitely ran into some issues out there where, let's just say we had some colorful conversations. But you know, sometimes you're able to break through that, and other times people are, you know, adamant about not repairing that vehicle. But a lot of times those ended up in some very positive discussions that ended up getting that vehicle fixed once they understood your position and you understood theirs, and worked through that. So all of those things are now incorporated into our outreach and into our mindset as we're coming up with new outreach plans and material.
And I would just add, Lonny mentioned this earlier, and there are a lot of messaging shifts that we have made since we have heard feedback from the field. And there are things that you assume everyone's going to love, like the knowledge that all recall repairs are free. But if you're just giving that information without context or examples, a lot of people are suspicious. They think that sounds a little too good to be true. And so being able to come back and say, you don't have to be the owner of the vehicle, like you don't have to be a customer of the dealership, giving some concrete examples of, we really mean it when we say recalls are free. The dealerships are getting paid. Don't worry about that. You know, it's free to you. So that's just one example.
And Kerry, if I can add on to that with what Brad and Ashley are talking about, that one-on-one communication, the promotores and Honda's efforts, the OEM's efforts of knocking on doors, we took that to heart. And as part of the Check to Protect Coalition, that is now integrated into the National Digital Car Seat Check Form. So there are 30,000 technicians plus out there across the United States that have that little reminder on the form that they can use. And that's one-on-one curbside. KJ had mentioned it. You're already talking safety to the family. Let's go that extra step and talk about vehicles. So it's that one-on-one communication to overcome those barriers that Brad and Ashley had alluded to.
Well, Lonny, I'm glad you mentioned that. I mean, 50% of this panel are certified technicians, and use that. But you know, one of the things that we'd like to do is really encourage people to action. So, Lonny, what are some of the resources that people can find on Check to Protect? Some things that maybe they could do immediately to try to engage their community or maybe their workplace and friends on checking for vehicle recalls?
Absolutely. Earlier we had the question about, is it an app? Checktoprotect.org, just Google search Check to Protect. It's the first thing that comes up. All you got to do is enter your license plate number. So that could be if you're a fleet manager, if you have a lot of vehicles, if you're a government employee, go out and check the fleet. I used to work I just retired from the Texas Department of Public Safety that Andre had mentioned. And we've got a fleet of unmarked vehicles that probably need to be checked. Counties, anybody that has a large number of vehicles, you can make that happen real quick. Community groups, if you're a member of the Lions Club, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, maybe it's a project for school. There's a lot of ways you can get involved, and they can reach out to me directly and just go to that Check Protect website at the bottom, contact us. That stuff will come to me and I can get them taken care of.
Well, Lieutenant Wright, your office has a very large fleet. How do you make sure that your colleagues are riding in vehicles that don't have any active recalls?
Yes, ma'am, you're correct, Kerry. So our fleet is approximately a little bit over 300, ma'am. So we kind of have a two-tiered system. We're going to have our initial system, which is basically that's going to be developing a correct direct line of communication between the manufacturer, the vendor, and then the dealership. The second tier of that is we actually have signed up for the NHTSA, the emails. So you actually can have your fleet registered within those NHTSA emails, and it'll come back on the secondary, just in the event that we didn't get an email or we didn't have that communication between the manufacturer for a specific model, whether it could be an airbag, a seatbelt, or whatever. We did sign up for those email alerts through NHTSA, which helps circumvent any miscommunications, and that helps to ensure that all vehicles that we have, our fleet on the road, are all checked and are all safe, man.
And if I could add to that real quick, if a fleet manager has 300 vehicles they need to check, if you go to that checkprotect.org, there's a tool on there where you can put up to 10,000 VINs at one time and submit them. So you don't have to sit there, Andre, and enter all 300 of them, because that's a lot of VINs.
We're working hard, Lonny, right?
So, basically, I think we can also ask our audience in the question box, if you have 10,000 vehicles, if you have 10,001, you're out of luck, but you'll have to just do 2 uploads. So I think you're good to go. We do have some questions that have been submitted. We do have a question from Denise. She's curious about how recalls are the very small batches of recalls. So maybe only a handful of vehicles. Do the manufacturers handle them differently than the ones that are huge quantities? Like Brad, you've been working a lot on the Takata recall. Do they have different processes? Do they go to greater lengths? What are the differences in the number of affected vehicle recalls in terms of outreach and education?
I'll start. We really don't handle recalls any differently. Outside of the Takata world, we reach out to our customers, encourage them to contact us or our dealerships with any questions, and we will work with them to overcome any barriers that they have through those communications, whether it's one vehicle or a million vehicles. Our process is standard for those types of recalls.
So we've heard a lot about success, and now I'm going to flip it a little bit. Sometimes things don't work as well as we'd hoped, and we all learn by failing, or maybe things that don't work as well. So I'm wondering if any of our panelists have a lesson learned that they'd like to share, something that didn't work as well as they'd hoped, or perhaps it's something they had tweaked along the way. So it might be a change in availability. So for example, KJ said they had some problems with really entering that long VIN number, and boy, what a delight when they found that they only had to enter a license plate number. Do any of our panelists have anything that they'd like to share for something they had to pivot? The word of 2020 is pivot. So pivot to change a program, change an idea, or change messaging.
I think for all of us, COVID. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say,
good.
I'll jump in, I guess. Sorry. One that we found interesting, we have a partnership in the tribal nations, and we learned that the social media that we were doing was not being effective at all. They really were not receptive to it. So we got with our partners at the Tribal Injury Prevention Center, and they took our message tweaked it and made it their own and pushed it out, and it has been much better received. So it goes back to the networking and the communications. Listen to your people, know your audience is what it's all about, and everybody on the panel has mentioned something to that effect.
Ashley, was there something you had wanted to share?
Oh, I think this has been echoed by a number of us, but just the pivot that was required by COVID was an interesting time to be doing outreach, especially outreach that until that time had been heavily on the ground, kind of one-on-one communications, and then moving all of that to be digital was kind of a fascinating time. I thought that the earned media component, when we were doing media stories, that was surprisingly smooth in terms of people's interest in hearing from Zoom videos and everything else. And we were able to do some really cool B-roll packages so people could have the experience of being there on the ground, even if they weren't there. But that was a tricky pivot, and it's really been nice to be able to go back to more in-person and on-the-ground activities.
Yeah, we've gotten some comments. KJ, people are loving your idea of car washes, by the way, and the captive audience. And that's kind of, I'll ask everybody in just a minute for their closing thoughts, but that is a really great way to have signage. And I'm wondering if anybody on the panel has kind of what's next. What are some other ways that you can expand your program or another audience, knowing that car washes are already on the table?
I'll go ahead and start. So one of the things that we're really starting to look at very heavily now is demographic attributes and how we can use outreach, different types of outreach, whether that's text, email, phone, different messages within mail, to really pinpoint our message and grab the attention of people who are at different either life stages or different cultures or something like that. So we actually have that program. We've been working on building that. It launches next month. So I'm very excited to see how that plays in the marketplace. So that's our current shift in strategy for outreach.
Well, and I'll say two things that I'm going to do. My nephew's graduating, and I'm going to make sure everybody that I meet, everybody before they get to their car, I'm going to have them pull out their phone and check for any recalls. And in my community, in my building, it's easy enough for me to just walk through the parking lot and put something on our community electronic bulletin board. So it doesn't have to be big and it doesn't have to be fancy, is kind of the what I'm hearing you guys say. So we do only have a few minutes left, so we're going to do a round robin. I'm going to ask each of you for some closing thoughts, some comments. And Lonny, why don't we start with you?
You've heard it quite a bit, but checktoprotect.org is the website. You don't have to download anything to your phone. Just go, put your information in, you're good to go. An area we're looking at, Check to Protect is like a baseball team. Brad and his crew, the OEMs, they're first up at bat. They know where those folks are. Where we come in are the cars that have been sold over and over and over again. So we're going to focus on auto parts places. Where do people go to fix those older cars? And maybe get some partnerships with those. So I encourage everybody, check your vehicle. You may save your family or save other users on the road. So I thank you.
All right, Brad, you're next at bat.
All right, thank you. I just want to thank everybody for the opportunity to speak here today and for listening to everything that all the panelists have had to say. As it's been said, it really does take a village to accomplish this, and I appreciate everybody's support. And look forward to working with everybody in the future to, keep our roads safe. And please, as Kerry, as you mentioned, it one VIN at a time. That's what it takes. So conversations with friends, family, strangers, whatever it takes. If you can push that message and communicate that out, that's a big help. So thank you.
Lieutenant Wright, I'm pitching the ball to you.
And just to kind of expound on what Lonny and Brad said, just make sure that we're utilizing the instruments that we do have. We're using the Check to Protect. We're using NHTSA. Ultimately, it's preservation of life, making sure that we keep the road safe, making sure that we're able to mitigate or circumvent any type of accidents of such due to vehicle recall. So education and safety is key. Kerry disappeared, huh?
Kerry disappeared.
She vanished.
I'll go on from there.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think what I think.
Sorry about that. I actually turned my camera off as I was desperately trying to come up with another baseball theme. So I'm glad you caught that. And now I'm fielding it to you, KJ.
I think this is a great opportunity to really develop some other injury prevention advocates in our community. We mentioned scouts, church groups. This is something that's so simple. We don't have to take a 6-hour train the trainer course and keep an ongoing certification for. So if we can develop some other safety advocates along the way, young or old, I think this would be a great way to continue the dialogue on safety.
And Ashley, we're not going to stop short. Short stop, it's your turn. Final thoughts?
Final thoughts. June is Airbag Recall Repair Month. So if you have been if you were inspired by today's panel and are thinking of ways that you might be able to help spread the word, this is a perfect month to do that. Especially if you live in Arizona, Georgia, Texas, or Michigan, where we're going to be doing some concerted efforts. So go to checktoprotect.org and click the resources tab. And there are a lot of different pieces that you can use to help spread the word.
Great, well, thank you. I'd like to thank our sponsor, American Honda, and our panelists, Brad Ortloff, KJ Feury, Andre Wright, Ashley Middleton, and Lonny Haschel. We hope that everybody is leaving energized and ready to incorporate information about vehicle recalls into their programs. Thank you for joining us for the first of our 2 pre-annual meeting webinars. And we hope we'll see you in Louisville this September 17th through 21st. Registration and details, including information on our wonderful speakers, including William J. Bratton, who spent 46 years in law enforcement and is the only person to lead the departments of 2 of America's largest cities, and Jane Pauley, Emmy award-winning host of CBS Sunday morning. So we've got a lot of speakers lined up, and there's so much. So please go to ghsa.org for more information. We're delighted, and we're very happy to have you here. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, attendees. Be safe. Go and check for recalls, everybody. Stay safe.